Marjorie Taylor Greene. This was the topic that everyone was discussing last week, not only in Georgia, but across the country. But before we get into what happened, I'm going to do my best to try to describe how Marjorie Taylor Greene emerged on the scenes. This was a woman who lives in Northwest Georgia. She's a mother. She was a person who was always very active in the Republican sort of conservative community. But we all remember in 2021 when she ran for office, she burst on the scenes with a very, very conservative, sometimes divisive, but very, very specific message about why she was a Republican and why she was running for office. This is a woman who has had an unwavering amount of support for President Trump when he ran for office in 2016, when he was elected and he served that first term, and then even when he was defeated by President Joe Biden, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene remained steadfast in her support for this president. So as you see here, this is a woman who was able to tap into a lot of folks who live in the northwest part of Georgia. This is a very conservative district. This is a very conservative part of Georgia. Many Republicans who come from this area are people who are on the front lines when it comes to the MAGA movement. As soon as she went to Congress, there's a list of things that we can talk about that she mentioned, whether it was her staunch support around QAnon and talking about some of the things that she learned by studying this practice. Also, we remember her yelling at the State of the Union for President Biden. Here's a clip of her doing that.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks.
And we also remember some of her attacks, her back and forth with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett doing committee meetings. And right here, I'll play that clip.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
your
please regain order of your committee.
Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
So we know that she has been a person in Congress who has been very controversial. She's had an enormous amount of financial support. Her small donor donations are some of the best. And when she would go on social media and say certain things, you saw the MAGA conservative movement embrace her. She defended President Trump. She promoted all of his initiatives and has, quite frankly, been, I think, the most popular member of Congress from Georgia because of the controversy and because of some of the profound things that she's said. But now let's get to how she's been able to really govern this last year. Many people think that her resignation was impulsive. A lot of folks thought it was something that she just decided to do at that moment. When she announced that she was going to resign from Congress on January 5th, immediately people start wondering why January 5th? Well, in order to be fully vested as a federal employee, you have to serve in the federal government for at least 5 years. But I think that that's one way to look at it. But my take is this. if you look at the last year of the relationship between President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, we saw some warning signs. First and foremost, let's go to the inauguration. She immediately was pressing him on some of the issues about Ukraine. She didn't like how he made a decision to invade Iran. And she also was very relentless in her call to make sure that she encourages President Trump to release the Epstein files. She met with the victims. She talked to the victims' families. And this is something, while she did always say that this is something that President Biden could have done while he was in office, but she urged President Trump, the Attorney General, and Speaker Mike Johnson. But let's go back and let's listen to some of the harsh criticism that she had for Speaker Mike Johnson.
The worst thing that I just can't get over is we're not working right now. And I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House.
It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family. But it's been wrong to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms.
So a lot of us listened to the video, and what she said is that I'm resigning and I love my sweet, dear District 14. But she was very critical of not being able to get things done in Congress. She pretty much said what a lot of us know, that is that Congress these days are not really passing a lot of bills, and it's been very hard to govern because Democrats have locked down on certain issues, the Republicans have locked down on certain issues. But I think that when we got to the point where the Republicans were deciding who was going to run for governor and who was going to run for U.S. Senate, that's where I think Marjorie Taylor Greene finally started seeing how supportive Donald Trump was, not of her as a person and as a loyal supporter of his in the MAGA movement, but did he really think that she could actually run in Georgia and win? This is some of the president's word when he said that he looked at the polling and why he decided to, what we've seen reported, to ask the Congresswoman not to run for higher office.
I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person.
So let's think about this. You're a sitting member of Congress. You're one of the most popular Congress people in the world. You are a top supporter of this president. Her words was that I believe that I'm better than all the other people who are running for governor. She was referring to, at that time, Burt Jones and Chris Carr. And that was before Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger had officially entered the race.
If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never, ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well. There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played. When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington.
And you just heard her talk about how she was contemplating whether or not she was going to run for governor or run for U.S. Senate. So the reporting that we're seeing is that she was told that based on the polling and based on the president's support of Burt Jones, that she was asked to stand down. And that's got to be a very hard pill to swallow for anybody when you feel that you are compelled and you've earned the right to basically be able to run for higher office. But the person you have supported the most, the person who you've shown unwavering loyalty to, tells you that you need to stand down. Then let's go to the healthcare debate. And again, I want to continue to play her words, not mine. I want to give you her take while I give you my take, because a turning point in this healthcare debate, when it came to what are we going to do to make sure that we protect the millions of Georgians and also the millions of people around the country, to make sure that the Affordable Care Act, healthcare subsidies, and tax credits don't expire.
And healthcare costs have risen and risen and risen and risen. but I'm going to pick on Republicans. Republicans never fixed it. I yelled at Mike Johnson last week on our GOP conference call. By the way, I'm missing the call today. It's going on right now. And I hope that Mike Johnson is finally giving a single health care policy because the country deserves it.
So I want you to pay very close attention to what she said here. And a lot of you all who know me, I always use these two words, and it applies to politics, but it also applies to your everyday life. Those two words are self-preservation. Everyone can be supportive or critical of things when it's not directly impacting you or your family. What you just heard the Congresswoman say is that her grown adult kids are recipients of this Affordable Care Act, this health exchange, right? They're in the marketplace. They depend on this access. But when it became a threat to them, and it became a threat to so many other people, roughly about 1.4 million in Georgia, of folks who could lose these health care coverages with these subsidies and these tax credits, that's when you saw her come out and say, look, we shouldn't be in this government shutdown. So listen, let's listen very close to what she was saying. And you all remember this shutdown. It just ended a couple weeks ago. And now when I say ended, it has not completely been able to be resolved. You still have people who are waiting on those paychecks. You still have people who are not paid. But what got lost in the messaging is that while we were focusing on air traffic controllers, we were focusing on TSA workers, we were focusing on people not being able to get their SNAP benefits, we were singing the alarm as Democrats saying, we are not going to support this clean resolution bill because it does nothing to make sure that subsidies don't go up for the American people and that folks need access to this health care. And at the center of that argument was, can we have a vote to make sure that we restore the tax credits and restore the subsidies so folks across the country, roughly 20 million plus, don't lose their Affordable Care Act health care access. It was at that point where the Congresswoman said, you know what, we got to do something. Don't totally agree about how we got here. We need to fix it, but we need to support that. So let's fast forward from that debate. And what we saw was kind of like a evolution of her continuing to double down on that. While doing the shutdown, she was saying, hey, I think we should be in Washington right now voting. I mean, she took a very uncharacteristic and unusual tone. And I think that over time, it had to be some conversations between her and the president. But what really was the tipping point, I believe, is that once they had a conversation and when he started the name calling, started calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene, his words, not mine, I think that really hit a different nerve because leading up to that point, she was going on national TV shows, The View. She was really trying to be a little bit more approachable person, but still not abandoning her conservative values. She was still saying, I love Donald Trump. I support him. But she was trying to be a softer Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she also said, look, you guys never invited me on a lot of these shows because we had pretty much put her in a category where she was just this conservative Republican. So where do we go from here? She's now announced that she's going to resign. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking at the race. Here's some of the names that have actually been mentioned so far of folks who are going to want to run in one of the most conservative districts in the country, in District 14.
But people know it's now time for a new representative and perhaps a new tone for politics here in the 14th District. Her district field manager, Jim Tully, who is also the chairman of the 14th District GOP, entered the race last night. He posted a video online announcing his intention to run. The GOP side also includes Marine vet Christian Hurd and businessman Jeff Criswell. You may remember him. He ran against Lucy McBath 2 years ago in Atlanta and lost. Sean Harris, a rancher and a Democrat who lost to Greene in 2024, is also in. So is Star Black, a Republican and retired FEMA official. She's been in the race since June and said she was upset to see Greene's resignation. She is among those who thinks it is time for a change here.
What you haven't seen is a long line of Republicans running to agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene and what she's saying. And a lot of them have been, I think, a little silent. Her words, not mine. This is a woman who said that she did not want to continue to represent her district because she knew that she would feel the wrath of Donald Trump. She did not want to put her district through a grueling primary because she was anticipating that Donald Trump and possibly the MAGA movement supporters were going to primary her. But she also said that she felt like a battered wife that was in a politically abusive relationship with a man who she supports, who she calls her friend, and she has been extremely loyal to. So I think her decision to resign was all those things that I just tried to lay out to you. Let's not get it twisted. She's still going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think that you look at her long 10-minute explanation, she still talks about some of the issues that she support. But I would say this as a Democrat, but more importantly, as a Georgian. I actually feel sorry for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Honestly, I do, in somewhat, because she now had to make a very tough decision for her and her family and her political career. But I also think about the Black women and the many women, Asian, Hispanic women that I talk to, have had struggles in their professions, who have had struggles in their personal life, right? And really don't have the option to quit. And the good thing about her is that she's now built up some wealth and she's able to resign from this job. And so I would say this on behalf of all women out here. I know how tough it is to basically be able to survive in this economy. I just read a recent report that particularly Black women have been the hardest hit, not just with the federal jobs being going away, DEI programs that have been eliminated, but it's just been hard for women in general to survive. And a lot of them, particularly the single women who have to provide for their kids, it's been very tough on them as well. So I do believe her resignation, her stance is also standing up for those folks as well. But we have to understand the moment and where she is, but also not forget some of the things that she said. But also, let's give her a chance to prove herself. Let's see how she votes for the remaining time that she's in Congress. So again, wanted to give you guys my take on this. I think we have to wait and see how this is going to all play out. Let's not rush to judgment about how she's going to be perceived, but we are waiting to see one of three things if they will happen. One, does she just go away quietly and just bow out and go do something differently? Two, does she take this platform that she has and continue to support a movement, maybe even possibly run as an independent? And last thing, what we're all talking about, does she either run for governor, U.S. Senate, or guess what, y'all? She may think about running for president. Yeah, I said it. She actually may think about running for president. This is a woman who has a immediate following of people who are ready to go and get activated for her. So again, thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me your feedback. And remember, follow us on Instagram, Tharon's Take. Also go to tharonstake.com. And also you can download this podcast on any of your podcast platforms.